Hey, shalom family. This is your brother Dana, and I'm coming to you from the city of Atlanta, from a place in, now look, I'm getting fancy, One Love. But these videos, as I have shared before, are just an opportunity for me to speak from my heart to yours. And as I say, I hope it leaves you encouraged, edified, and at least blessed. The last several videos that I have done have been stories or testimonies that the Most High Yah has brought me through over those 30 years that I lived my life in Chicago. And this video is probably one of the greatest lessons that I thank the Most High Yah for. And I would like to share it with you. My background, I grew up in southern Minnesota, out in a rural area, 4,500 people to my hometown, 68 people in my graduating class, only school in the city. During the summer, we camped a lot with my parents. I was a camper at a Bible camp. Then when I went to a two-year school in Waldorf College, I actually spent a summer as a camp counselor in northern Minnesota. And it was there that I wanted to be a youth pastor as a camp director because I loved the wilderness. I played guitar. I could play Kumbaya. We would sit around a bonfire every single night. In fact, during that one summer, I would take some of the kids from the camp on canoes, a couple days journey down the rivers deeper into the wilderness, where at night the kids were instructed to bring all their food, all their sweets, even a wrapper, to put it in a bag so we could put it up in the trees. So while we slept, if a bear or a wild animal came through camp, they would not go through the tent and through us to get the food that we had in our sleeping bag. And I tell you what, that if you want to talk about people being obedient to what you ask, they were so obedient that most of the young girls would even bring their flavored chapstick, afraid that the bears would come and get that. But that's how I grew up. That's where I thought I was going. So January of '94, I entered Moody Bible Institute in downtown Chicago to get that bachelor's degree, to be that youth pastor, to go out into the wilderness and be that camp director. Until 2 months later, when in March of '94, I was beat up and had that altercation with 5 young black men on a Sunday afternoon coming back from church on the west side of Chicago. As many of you know, that altercation completely changed the direction of my life, my mission, my purpose, and my passion. And so in those next months, I started to join the urban mission groups. And one of the activities they had, or programs, was Moody students could be a big brother or a big sister to a young person at Cabrini Green. Those of you who do not know Cabrini Green, go ahead and watch some of the sitcom The Good Times with J.J. Jackson and the family. That was filmed in Cabrini Green. But that made Cabrini Green look like a luxurious place to live, to what Cabrini Green really was. And so, like the Jackson family, Reginald, my little brother, lived in one of the high-rise buildings. So you had 4 high-rise buildings here in a square, you had 4 high-rise buildings here in a square, and then over here you had the townhomes. I actually spent a summer, a good month or more, living in one of those townhomes in Cabrini Green. That was part of my journey. But this was before I graduated from Moody, and so I had gotten this little brother. And what would happen in the spring is that we would be informed by police that there would be a gang wars going on for territory. In many cases, each one of those buildings was controlled by a different gang. And so in the springtime, there would be a 1 to 2 week period that we were told not to enter until the war was over. I was taught that in years past, it would be so bad that the police themselves would just walk away until things were done, and then they would go back to do the cleanup. Well, what also would happen if there was a change in control of one of those buildings, that the gang would no longer control it, that means the individuals, the scouters or the lookouts, the patrols, regarding whatever position they carried or title, they would change. So when I would get to the big square in the middle of Cabrini Green, I would then walk up maybe 6 to 8 steps to a platform that would then lead you into one of the doors that would go into the lobby of the building. There would be like maybe 4 to 8 doors on this side, and then in the middle was a bulletproof booth where the security guard stayed. And remember when I say stayed. So I got there, you know, my little brother happened to actually call me just before I left. He didn't have a phone, so I would have to walk over and then walk up to the 12th floor, because most of the time the elevators did not work, or the elevator. Walk up to the 12th floor, knock on the door in hopes that he was home. But as I was getting ready to leave, because I hadn't seen him for a while, I got a call on my dorm room phone, and I answered it, and it was Reginald. And he's like, "Hey, Dana, I got a phone. Here's the number." So I simply wrote it down, said I'm on my way. So as I got there and I began to walk up these steps, some of the gentlemen that I would call as their lookouts were saying, "Yo, man, what," you know, calling out to me like, "Who are you? What, wait, what?" And when I heard them, you know, I still took a couple steps, and then when I heard it get a little bit louder and a little more direct, I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to get my little brother. I'm from Moody. I'm going to get my little brother." I was just like that with kind of the guys to the side. I'm going to get this. I had a purpose, you know, and that's what I'm doing. And the calling towards me got louder and more intense, but I ignored it because I was coming to get my little brother. And I walked in those doors, and I was surrounded by, I don't even know how many guys, 5, 7. But what I remember is they had a gun to my head. And when I say that security guards stayed in the booth, they stayed in the booth. "Who the are you? Why the you here?" And I told him, "I'm from Moody. I'm here to get my little brother." "Yeah, right. Then call him." I just wrote his number down, family. I'm far from a genius. So they motioned, and the security guard, little touch-tone phone, put it out enough where I dialed his number. And I know as a fact it was the Most High Yah that brought that number that I simply just wrote down to my memory. Reginald answered. He came down, and when he got to me, they all backed away. We left to go grab a burger. But I didn't eat a burger with him this time. In fact, I don't remember much of what we talked about, because the Most High Yah was speaking to me. He asked me, "Who do you think you are, that you can walk into the front yard or a backyard of a group of people, of a homeowner, and think that you don't have to give an account or stop out of respect to acknowledge the individual or individuals that are asking who you are, walking on their property?" So when we got back, there was no problem. Took Reginald up to his floor, dropped him off, but there was one in my heart. And when I walked out those doors, I went over to the guy and I said, "Sir, I owe you an apology. I owe you an apology that I didn't have the decency to give you the due respect that you deserved as I walked into your front yard and you don't have a clue to who I was. I am sorry. I am sorry because I know if it was one of you that had walked or didn't even probably get into one of our white people's yards, you would either been arrested or gunned down. I said, I am sorry, and I will never allow that to happen again, to disrespect you in the way that I did. I went home, and the next times I came, actually, we'd go over there with all the guys and have a handshake. Got to know them by name. They got to know me. Until the next year, same war, different time, both those young men's lives were taken. Share this story with you because it wasn't those guys holding that gun to my head that almost killed me or could have killed me. It was my white privilege that would have killed me. See, us white people don't have to think about anywhere we go, at least here in the United States. And the only places we may choose not to go are places just like that, Cabrini Green, the West Side, the Robert Taylor projects on the south side of Chicago. White privilege and white supremacy is so ingrained in us, family. We don't even recognize to the extent in which we operate in it. And that is why I'm so grateful and thankful that the Most High Yah, early on, even before I graduated, taught me the lesson that I need to deal with my white privilege and my white supremacy. And over these 30 years, I thank him through some of the videos I've already done and several more that I'm going to share with you. He's helped deliver me and help me to recognize my white supremacy and my white privilege so that I will never, knowingly and unknowingly, disrespect you, my black brothers and sisters, the true chosen people, the precious chosen children of the Most High Yah. But before I end, I want to share with you this. About a month or so before I left Chicago, I had just gotten out of the gym and my back license plate was hanging, and so I took it off and I put it behind me in the driver's seat. And so again, a lot of the police officers would pull me over. I'm a white guy, and in the black community, they thought I was coming to get drugs. So one time I told them, well, if that's the case, if all of us white people are buying drugs, then why isn't Cook County Jail 50% white people who are buying the drugs and 50% of the black people who they're buying them from? Why is it always blacks that are arrested? Because if you arrest us, there will be no need for them. So wouldn't it make more sense to arrest us? But we know the dealio there. So anyway, I was driving and I had my front license plate on, but it was my back one that fell off. And there were some cops sitting right there, and right when I saw them and they saw me, I knew in my heart they were going to pull me over for something. Because I was turning down the street where a lot of drug dealing is known for, although I lived right there on the corner. So I went and turned that street, and so as soon as I did, their lights came on. I pulled over, literally just across the street from my house. They came up behind me, another one came up from the front, came over, wanted my license and stuff, so I gave them my license and asking me questions, what are you doing here? I said, well, if you look at the address, I live right there. And he's like, okay. He says, and I said, well, why did you pull me over? He says, because your back license plate was out. But I said, how did you know that? I said, you were sitting in front of me. And so you saw the front of my car, not the back of my car. But see, that's when they start to get impatient or stirred angrily. So as they were checking it, this guy was standing there shining kind of flashlight. It wasn't quite dark, but shining that. And he said, so where's your back license plate, sir? I said, it's right behind me. And I said, let me grab it. And I put my hand back to go down to get the license plate on the floor. And just like that, the Most High spoke to me and said, right now you're operating in your white privilege. Because a black brother would have been dead by that time. They don't know if I was reaching for a license plate or a gun or a candy bar or a cell phone. That's the depth of white supremacy and white privilege in this nation. That day, if I was black, I may not be alive to tell the story that I was just reaching for my license plate. And that's why I say that that lesson that the Most High Yah taught me right away in the beginning of my walk is probably one of the greatest lessons that I am the most thankful for. And I hope that this video blesses your heart to you, my Hebrew family member, knowing that I'm on this journey and all of that white privilegedness is still in me, but I'm doing my best to acknowledge it and to get rid of it, because I never want it to disrespect you. This is your brother Dana. I'm coming to you from the city of Atlanta, from a place in, that's right, one love. Shalom, family.